In this video, I'll be sharing a mystical higher consciousness experience I had after smoking weed. Welcome brothers and sisters, my name is Amar. This is Authentic Self Guide, the place that guides you to becoming your true authentic self. So in this video I'll be sharing a story of a mystical higher consciousness experience I recently had after smoking weed. Just to give you a bit of background, I've been smoking weed for about half of my life, so a significant amount of time. But my usage has never been heavy. I've never been one of these people who smokes every day. And over the last couple of years, I've really only been smoking for developmental purposes. So I have problems with attention and anxiety. So the last couple of years, I found that weed helped me with attention. I was able to be more productive, have clearer focus, and get more done. And it also allowed me to be less anxious and less nervous. So for the last couple of years, I've only used it for these purposes. Now, having gone through a reasonable amount of development, I would say, at the end of 2017, I decided to quit smoking weed because I felt that I just didn't need it anymore. And then coincidentally, at the beginning of January 2018, I went through a spiritual awakening. It wasn't planned, and I'll film another video about that. And that lasted about 5 to 6 weeks. Now, following that experience, a couple of weeks later, I started to feel a lot of resistance coming up. And if anyone who's on this journey of personal growth and development, they may be able to relate to this resistance that we feel on this journey. Now, this resistance is good, it's positive, because it shows that we're moving in the right direction. This resistance is usually old programmings, old beliefs, and really negative emotions that we need to let go, work through and integrate if we are to move to the next level of our development. So I was feeling this resistance following this awakening that I had. I tried to meditate on this resistance for a couple of days, but in the back of my mind I had something telling me to smoke weed. Initially I dismissed it, but then I got a few signs, a few little messages that were telling me to smoke the weed. So I waited a couple of days, and then finally I decided, okay, I'll smoke a bit of weed. So I smoked a very moderate amount. My high on a scale of 1 to 10 was about a 5 or a 6. I've never been one of them people who just likes getting very, very stoned. It just doesn't work for me because I like to be able to function. So I got pretty high, you could say, and then as soon as that high hit me, it was as though I got pulled into the present moment within a couple of minutes, and I become intensely present, more present than I've ever been in my whole life. And everything in the room that I was in had an energy and a vibrancy to it that I'd never seen before. Everything just looked different, as though it had another dimension to it. And this was just a crazy kind of state that I unconsciously found myself in. And it was as though my perceptions had been cranked up, especially my visual awareness. Everything, like I said, looked alive and had an energy to it. And this kind of just blew my mind. And what happened was I would start to become absorbed in objects. So I have this plain looking vase. It's just a glass vase, there's nothing to it. And I would just get, for about 5 minutes, I just got absorbed in looking at this vase. And I have this Buddha figure, I've got him here, I call him Osho. And he sits in the corner of my living room. And I sat on my couch and I was just staring at Osho, this figure. And I actually got off the couch and I just become so engrossed in Osho, this figure. And I got up and I realised that everything around me had this essence about it which I've never recognised before. And the energy of that level that I was in was so much higher than the energy that I was used to living at. And this experience only lasted about 20 to 25 minutes. I think my mind pulled me out of it after that time. Maybe the high wore off a little bit, but I can't really find the words to verbalise what it was like. And it was really overwhelming. I think the way I've interpreted it was just a higher state of consciousness. Now, people talk about being incredibly present and in the now and everything is consciousness. I think I got a taste of that, but it was just so overwhelming. And now I understand why it's very difficult for people to go from these lower states of consciousness to these higher states of consciousness, because the life at that level is so, the frequency and the vibrancy is too much. And I think on rare occurrences it happens. Eckhart Tolle being one of them. I think he's someone who went from depression and misery into one of these high states of consciousness. And he said that he did nothing for about 2 or 3 years. He just sat on park benches because it's as though everything's alive. Can you imagine going through life and everything you looked at was alive? It's just overwhelming, and it can take time to get accustomed to that experience. So that's what happened. Now, moving on from that, this only happened about 10 days ago. I haven't smoked weed since. I think a lot of the time, especially in Western culture, we feel if we have an experience like this, have it again, have more, do it again, but haven't really been interested to do that. The way I've seen it is, it was a magical experience for me, and why would I want to dilute it that by chasing it again? And I don't want to do that. It's something that I'll remember for a long time, and it only lasted about 20-25 minutes before I think my mind took over again. But it's given me so much to work on and so much to work with, and just integrate that experience. And I'm seeing shifts, and I think it's a result of that. So one of the main things is my meditation practice. I meditate every day almost for 1 hour. I think that's one of the main reasons this has happened as well. But my meditation has got deeper. And the other thing in reality is I'm becoming much more patient. I can be doing like tedious things that in the past would get me frustrated, and I would just want to finish as soon as possible to get it completed, which I think is kind of a sickness this society lives with. But now I've started to find peace. I wouldn't say complete peace, but a little bit of this peace, a little taste, a little scent of it in just little things that I'm doing, and it's nice. It's the only way I can describe it. It's nice to be able to just do things for the sake of doing them. So it's something that I'm working on. It's something that I have developed as a result of this experience, and maybe the spiritual awakening I had as well. And like I say, the reason I think this experience happened was because of this awakening I went through, because I meditate a lot, especially since August last year, almost every day. So these are the first kind of symptoms the results I'm finally getting from all the hard work. What another thing cannabis allows me to do is it allows me to see things objectively from a detached point of view. So I haven't been able to acknowledge the growth I've been going through, but when I got high, it allowed me to detach and see, okay, wow, the growth I've gone through. From my understanding, having done a little bit of research following this experience, mystics and people from long ago, thousands of years ago, have been using cannabis and still do for this very purpose, to expand consciousness, to reach higher and higher levels of development. So I knew it went on. I didn't know how like hardcore it was, but maybe in the future, if I feel the need to smoke, if I feel resistance and something's calling me to smoke, then maybe I will. But at the moment, I'm not chasing that experience again, even though it was cool. And finally, one last topic I wanted to touch on. Usually when I would smoke weed, initially for these first 20 minutes, I would feel anxiety because I'm someone who suffers from anxiety. Then after that, the anxiety would go away and I'd be in a much better state. But what happened this time, it was as though that I could feel the anxiety-related feeling in my body. It's usually in my stomach area. But I somehow tapped into it and used it to keep me present. Now, I did this unconsciously. I don't know how I did it, but I have read Eckhart Tolle talk about this in one of his books, how we can use our pain and our negative emotions to keep us present. And I think that's what I did. And my anxiety is reduced hugely over the last kind of 6-7 months. But I think that's what that's kind of the mechanism behind it, how it may have worked. So that is everything I had to share on this experience. If you've had something similar, or if you use weed for similar purposes, then feel free to leave a comment down below, because I would love to hear more about that. I do see a lot of people condemning cannabis in the spiritual kind of community, but I try not to condemn anything. I try not to judge anything, and just treat things for what they are, maybe even use them as a tool. I think with practice and knowledge and consciousness, we can use these things as a tool for growth, provided we do it respectfully. So that's something that maybe people should explore, and so I welcome you to do that. But otherwise, if you've got anything of value out of this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you think this video can help anyone else, feel free to share the content. And if you would like to see more kind of transformational content and find how to rediscover who you truly are, hit that red subscribe button so you can keep up to date with all the uploads. But that is everything I have to share with you lovely people today. Hope you have a great day. I'll hopefully see you again in the next one. Thank you.